The phone's shrill ring sliced through the silence of Elena's tiny Brooklyn apartment, jolting her awake at 2:17 a.m. Her heart pounded as she fumbled for the device, its screen glowing with an unknown number. She hesitated, sensing the call was no accident. It was a summons to a past she'd fought to bury. Elena, 28, was no stranger to sleepless nights. Her life as a freelance journalist in New York City was a patchwork of late-night coffee runs and chasing leads that often led nowhere. But this call felt different, heavy with an unspoken weight. She pressed the phone to her ear, her voice a cautious whisper. "Hello. Elena Rivera?" The voice was low, female, and unfamiliar, with a faint tremor of urgency. "You don't know me, but I need your help. My name's Mara Lynn, and I'm in trouble, deep trouble." Elena sat up, the sheets pooling around her waist. Her green eyes narrowed, scanning the dark room as if the shadows might reveal the caller's intent. "Why me? How did you get my number?" "I read your article last year," Mara said, her words rushed but deliberate. "The one about the corruption ring in the mayor's office. You're not afraid to dig. I need someone like you, someone who doesn't back down." Elena's pulse quickened. That article had cost her friends her safety and nearly her career. It had exposed a network of bribes and blackmail, but the fallout had left her wary of diving into another fire. Yet something in Mara's voice, raw, desperate, and oddly magnetic, pulled her in. "I'm listening," Elena said, swinging her legs over the bed's edge. "But you'd better give me something real." Mara exhaled, a sound like relief mixed with fear. "Meet me at the diner on 7th and Bleecker in 2 hours. I'll explain everything. But Elena, don't tell anyone." "Not yet." The line went dead. Elena stared at the phone, her mind racing. She didn't know Mara Lynn, but the call had cracked open a door to something dangerous, and she couldn't resist stepping through. By 4 a.m. Elena was at the diner, the neon sign buzzing faintly outside. The place was a relic of old New York, with cracked vinyl booths and the smell of burnt coffee. She slid into a corner booth, her leather jacket creaking, and waited. Her notebook rested on the table, a habit from years of chasing stories. She didn't trust easily, not after the threats that had followed her last big scoop. But curiosity burned brighter than caution. The bell above the door chimed, and a woman walked in. Mara Lynn was 32, taller than Elena expected, with short jet-black hair and deep brown eyes that seemed to carry the weight of secrets. Her tailored blazer was slightly rumpled, as if she'd been running. She spotted Elena and slid into the booth across from her, her movements precise but tense. "You came," Mara said, her voice softer in person but no less urgent. "I wasn't sure you would." "You didn't give me much choice," Elena replied, leaning forward. "Who are you, and what kind of trouble are we talking about?" Mara glanced over her shoulder, scanning the empty diner. "I'm a lawyer. I work for a firm that represents some powerful people. A week ago, I found something I wasn't supposed to: documents, recordings, proof of a money laundering scheme tied to a client. They know I have it, and they're coming for me." Elena's fingers tightened around her pen. "Who's they?" Mara hesitated, her gaze locking onto Elena's. "I can't say yet. Not here. But if you help me, we can expose them. Together." The word "together" hung in the air, charged with a meaning Elena couldn't quite place. She studied Mara, noting the faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly as she sipped her coffee. There was strength in her, but also fear in something else, a spark that made Elena's chest tighten unexpectedly. "Why should I trust you?" Elena asked, her voice low. "You could be setting me up." Mara reached into her bag and slid a USB drive across the table. "This is a fraction of what I have. Look at it. If you think it's real, meet me tomorrow night at the warehouse on Pier 17. If not, walk away." Elena pocketed the drive, her mind already spinning with possibilities. She'd spent years chasing truth, but this felt bigger, darker. And Mara, with her steady gaze and quiet intensity, was unlike anyone she'd ever met. "All right," Elena said finally. "I'll check it out. But if this is a game, Mara, I don't play nice." Mara's lips curved into a faint smile, the first hint of warmth in her expression. "Neither do I." As Mara stood to leave, their eyes met again, and for a moment the diner faded away. Elena felt a pull, like gravity, drawing her toward this stranger. She shook it off, blaming the late hour and the adrenaline. But as Mara disappeared into the rainy night, Elena knew one thing. This was no ordinary story. Back in her apartment, Elena plugged the USB into her laptop. The files were a maze of financial records, coded emails, and grainy audio clips. One name kept appearing: Victor Crane, a real estate mogul with ties to half the city's elite. The evidence pointed to a laundering operation funneled through his properties, but it was incomplete, just enough to hook her, not enough to publish. Elena leaned back, her heart racing. This was the kind of story that could change everything or destroy her. She thought of Mara, alone and hunted, and felt a pang she couldn't explain. Whatever this was, it was bigger than either of them, and it was just beginning. The warehouse on Pier 17 loomed like a shadow against the Hudson River, its rusted walls bathed in the faint glow of sodium lights. Elena arrived just before midnight, her boots crunching on the gravel as she scanned the empty lot. The USB drive burned in her pocket, its contents a puzzle she couldn't yet solve, but one she was determined to crack. She spotted Mara near a stack of crates, her silhouette sharp against the city skyline. Mara's blazer was gone, replaced by a dark hoodie that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "You came," Mara said, her voice a mix of relief and tension. "You didn't think I would?" Elena asked, stepping closer. The air between them felt charged, like the moment before a storm. Mara's eyes flicked to the shadows. "I wasn't sure. People don't usually stick around when things get dangerous." Elena smirked, trying to lighten the mood. "Guess I'm not most people." Mara's gaze softened, but only for a second. "We don't have much time. They're watching me. Probably you too now." Elena's stomach tightened. "Who's they, Mara? I need names." Mara hesitated, then pulled out a burner phone and played a recording. A man's voice, cold and clipped, mentioned cleaning up a loose end. Mara. The name Victor Crane surfaced again, linked to a shadowy group called the Syndicate. Elena's journalist instincts kicked into overdrive. She'd heard whispers of the Syndicate before, a network of power brokers who operated above the law. "They know I copied the files," Mara said. "If they find me, they'll kill me. And if you're with me, they'll come for you too." Elena's mind raced. She'd faced threats before, but this was different. The stakes were higher, the danger closer. Yet Mara's presence grounded her, a steady anchor in the chaos. "Then we move fast," Elena said. "We need more evidence, something airtight." Mara nodded. "There's a safe in Crane's office downtown. I have the combination, but getting in won't be easy." Elena raised an eyebrow. "You're suggesting we break in?" Mara's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You got a better idea?" The plan was reckless, but Elena felt alive, the thrill of the chase mingling with something deep, growing trust in Mara. They spent the next hour mapping out the heist. Crane's office was in a high-rise with security cameras and guards. Mara knew the building's layout from her firm's dealings with Crane, but one wrong move could end them both. As they huddled over a makeshift map, their shoulders brushed, and Elena caught Mara's scent, lavender and something earthy. Her heart stuttered, and she cursed herself for noticing. This wasn't the time for feelings, yet Mara's quiet courage was drawing her in, like a melody she couldn't unhear. They set out at 3 a.m., the city asleep under a blanket of stars. Crane's office was a fortress of glass and steel, but Mara's intel got them past the lobby guard with a forged maintenance pass. Inside, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the hum of electronics. Elena's pulse thrummed as they rode the elevator to the 22nd floor, Mara's hand grazing hers in the dark. The safe was hidden behind a false panel in Crane's office. Mara knelt, her fingers steady as she entered the combination. Elena kept watch, her flashlight sweeping the room. The safe clicked open, revealing a stack of documents and another USB drive. Mara grabbed them, but before they could leave, a shadow moved in the hallway. "Someone's coming," Elena whispered, pulling Mara behind a desk. Footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. A security guard or something worse. Elena's hand found Mara's, squeezing tightly. Mara's breath was warm against her cheek, and for a moment, fear gave way to something softer, more dangerous. The footsteps passed, and they exhaled in unison. "We need to go," Mara whispered, but her hand lingered in Elena's, a silent promise. Back at Elena's apartment, they pored over the new files. The documents named names, politicians, CEOs, Even a police commissioner all tied to the syndicate's web. The USB held encrypted emails, but one phrase stood out: Project Eclipse. It was vague, ominous, and clearly the key to everything. As dawn broke, Elena looked at Mara sprawled on her couch, exhaustion etched into her features. "You okay?" Elena asked, her voice softer than she intended. Mara met her gaze, her eyes unguarded for the first time. "I don't know. But with you, I feel like I could be." Elena's breath caught. She wanted to say something to bridge the gap between them, but the weight of their mission held her back. They were in too deep, and the game was only getting more dangerous. The next night, Elena and Mara holed up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Queens, the kind of place where no one asked questions. The room smelled of stale cigarettes, but it was safer than Elena's apartment, now likely compromised. They sat cross-legged on the bed, laptops open, deciphering the encrypted emails from Crane's safe. Elena's fingers flew across the keyboard, her coding skills from college proving useful. "Project Eclipse," she muttered, cracking another file. "It's a front for moving money offshore, but there's more, something about a shipment." Mara leaned closer, her shoulder brushing Elena's. "A shipment of what? Drugs? Weapons?" Elena shook her head. "Doesn't say. But it's big, and it's happening soon." She glanced at Mara, whose face was lit by the laptop's glow. The intensity in Mara's eyes stirred something in Elena, a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "We need to find out where and when," Mara said. "If we can catch them in the act, we'll have everything we need to bring them down." Elena nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. The syndicate wasn't just a group of corrupt suits. They had reach, power, and no qualms about killing. She thought of her mother, who'd raised her alone in the Bronx, always warning her to stay safe. This wasn't safe. But looking at Mara, Elena knew she couldn't walk away. They tracked the shipment to a dock in Red Hook, scheduled for the following night. The plan was simple but perilous. Infiltrate the dock, gather evidence, and get out before anyone noticed. Mara's legal connections got them fake IDs as port workers, but the risk was dizzying. As they prepared, Mara opened up for the first time. "I didn't want this life," she said, staring at the motel's peeling wallpaper. "I became a lawyer to help people, not to clean up messes for men like Crane. But I got in too deep, and now..." Elena reached for her hand, a reflex she didn't question. "You're not alone anymore." Mara's fingers curled around hers and the air shifted. "Why are you doing this, Elena? You could have walked away." Elena swallowed, her heart pounding. "Because you asked me to. And because I believe in you." The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Mara's eyes softened, and for a moment the world outside, the danger, the syndicate disappeared. Mara leaned forward, her lips brushing Elena's in a tentative electric kiss. Elena froze, then melted into it, her hands finding Mara's face. It was reckless, but it felt like the only true thing in their chaotic world. The kiss ended, but their foreheads stayed pressed together, breaths mingling. "We'll get through this," Mara whispered. "Together." The Red Hook dock was a maze of shipping containers, the air thick with salt and diesel. Elena and Mara, dressed in borrowed work vests, blended in with the late-night crew. They carried hidden cameras, their plan to record the shipment and slip away. But as they approached the designated pier, Elena's gut twisted. Too many men lingered in the shadows, their movements too deliberate. "They're not dock workers," Elena whispered, pulling Mara behind a container. "We're walking into a trap." Mara's face paled, but her jaw set. "We can't back out now. If we don't get this, they'll bury us." Elena nodded, her hand finding Mara's again. They moved silently, cameras rolling, capturing crates being loaded onto a ship. A man in a suit, Victor Crane himself, stood overseeing it all, his voice barking orders. Elena's lens caught his face, then zoomed in on the crate's labels. Medical supplies, but the weight and secrecy screamed something else. Before they could retreat, a shout rang out. "Hey, you two!" A guard had spotted them, his hand on a radio. Elena's heart sank as more figures closed in. "Run!" Mara hissed, grabbing Elena's arm. They sprinted through the maze of containers, footsteps pounding behind them. Bullets sparked off metal, and Elena's lungs burned as they dove behind a stack of crates. Mara's hand was slick with sweat, but she held tight. "We're pinned," Elena gasped. "What now?" Mara's eyes blazed with defiance. We fight. Huddled behind the crates, Elena and Mara shared a glance that spoke volumes: no surrender, no regrets. The guards were closing in, their radios crackling with orders. Elena's mind raced, searching for an escape. She spotted a narrow gap between containers, leading to the water's edge. There, she whispered, pointing. If we can get to the dock's end, there's a service boat. We might make it. Mara nodded, her eyes fierce. On 3. They counted silently, then bolted, weaving through the containers as bullets zipped past. Elena's heart pounded, but Mara's presence kept her steady. They reached the dock's edge, the boat bobbing in the dark water. Mara leapt aboard, pulling Elena with her. The engine roared to life just as a guard reached the pier, his shouts drowned out by the motor. They sped across the harbor, the city's lights blurring in the distance. Elena gripped the rail, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Mara steered, her face set with determination, but her hands trembled. You okay? Elena asked, her voice barely audible over the engine. Mara glanced at her, a flicker of warmth breaking through her resolve. Better now. They ditched the boat at a smaller dock and slipped into the city, finding refuge in a safe house Mara's firm used for witness protection. It was sparse but secure, with a single bed and a window overlooking a quiet street. They collapsed onto the bed, still in their work vests, the weight of the night settling over them. We got the footage, Elena said, holding up the camera. Crane's face, the crates, everything. But they'll know it was us. Mara nodded, her expression grim. We need to decrypt the rest of those emails. Project Eclipse is bigger than we thought. It's not just money, it's power. Control. Elena opened her laptop, the safe house's dim light casting shadows on her face. The emails revealed a chilling truth. Project Eclipse wasn't just laundering, it was a plan to manipulate key elections, funneling funds to candidates loyal to the syndicate. The shipment was a cover for distributing untraceable cash. This is bigger than us, Elena said, her voice shaking. We need help. Mara's hand found hers, steadying her. I know Summoning, a former mentor at the firm. She's retired, but she hates Crane. She might know who we can trust. They contacted Mara's mentor, Anna, who agreed to meet them at a park in Harlem the next morning. But as they prepared, Elena couldn't shake the memory of their kiss. It had been a moment of clarity in the chaos, a spark she wanted to chase. She looked at Mara, who was studying the laptop, her brow furrowed. Mara, Elena said softly. About last night. Mara's eyes met hers, vulnerable yet guarded. I felt it too. But this thing we're doing gets dangerous. I don't want to pull you into something you'll regret. Elena moved closer, her hand brushing Mara's cheek. I'm already in. And I'm not going anywhere. Their lips met again, this time slower, deeper. It was a promise, a defiance against the danger closing in. For the first time, Elena felt like she was fighting for more than a story for Mara, for them. The meeting with Anna was tense. The older woman, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, listened as they laid out the evidence. You're in over your heads, Anna said, her voice low. But you're right about Eclipse. It's a machine and Crane's just a cog. If you want to stop it, you need to go public fast. Anna gave them a name. Sarah Voss, a reporter at a major outlet with a reputation for integrity. But as they left the park, Elena's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You can't hide forever. Give us the drive or you both die. Elena's blood ran cold. She showed Mara, whose face hardened. They're tracking us, Mara said. We need to move. They split up to throw off their pursuers, agreeing to meet at Sarah's office in Manhattan. Elena took the subway, her heart pounding as she scanned every face. She felt Mara's absence like a missing limb, the connection between them growing stronger with every risk they took. Elena reached Sarah Voss's office just after dusk, her nerves frayed from dodging shadows all day. The newsroom was a hive of activity, but Sarah, a wiry woman in her 40s, ushered her into a quiet conference room. Mara arrived minutes later, her face pale but resolute. You've got something big, don't you? Sarah said, eyeing the USB drive Elena handed over. I've heard rumors about the syndicate, but no one's ever had proof. It's all here, Elena said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. Crane, Project Eclipse, the election rigging. But they're after us. We need to publish now. Sarah nodded, already skimming the files. This is explosive. I'll need 24 hours to verify and get it online. Can you stay safe that long? Mara and Elena exchanged a glance. We'll manage, Mara said, her hand brushing Elena's under the table. They left the newsroom, slipping into the crowded streets of Manhattan. The safe house was no longer secure, so they checked into a hotel under fake names, paying in cash. In the small room with the city's hum outside, they finally let their guards down. I'm scared, Mara admitted, sitting on the edge of the bed. Not just for me, for you. Elena knelt in front of her, taking her hands. We're in this together, remember? Whatever happens, I'm with you. Mara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I never thought I'd find Theseus in the middle of all this chaos. Elena smiled, her heart swelling. Sometimes the best things come when you least expect them. They made love that night, a quiet act of defiance against the danger closing in. It was tender, fierce, a claiming of something pure amid the darkness. As they lay tangled in the sheets, Elena knew she'd fight for this, for Mara, with everything she had. The next morning Sarah called. The story was live, plastered across every major outlet, with Crane's name and the syndicates exposed. Social media erupted, and the city buzzed with outrage. But the victory was short-lived. As Elena and Mara left the hotel, a black SUV screeched to a stop, and 3 men in suits stepped out. Run! Elena shouted, but there was nowhere to go. The men grabbed them, shoving them into the vehicle. Elena's heart pounded as she clung to Mara's hand, their fingers laced tightly. They were driven to an abandoned factory, where Victor Crane waited, his face a mask of cold fury. You thought you could ruin me? He sneered, pacing. You're nothing. Mara stood tall, her voice unwavering. It's over, Crane. The world knows. Crane laughed, but it was hollow. You think a story stops us? The syndicate is bigger than you can imagine. Elena's mind raced, searching for a way out. She noticed a loose pipe in the wall just within reach. As Crane turned to his men, she lunged, grabbing the pipe and swinging it at the nearest guard. Mara moved in sync, tackling another. They fought with desperate precision, years of survival instincts kicking in. They escaped battered but alive, running into the dawn. Sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah had tipped off the feds. Crane was arrested hours later, and the syndicate's empire began to crumble. Weeks later, Elena and Mara sat in a small cafe, the city quieter now. The story had changed everything. Lawsuits were filed, investigations launched, and the syndicate's grip loosened. But for Elena and Mara, the real change was deeper. I love you, Elena said, her voice soft but sure, as she reached for Mara's hand across the table. Mara smiled, her eyes bright with the same certainty. I love you too. They'd faced danger, betrayal, and fear, but what they'd found in each other was worth every risk. The late-night call had pulled them into a dangerous game, but it had also led them to love a love that bloomed in the shadows and grew stronger in the light. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.